In a quiet town where danger often hides in plain sight, a deaf girl becomes the target of ruthless bullies. Overlooked and underestimated, she faces threats that go beyond cruelty. They threaten her very safety. But what these bullies don't know is that her uncle is no ordinary man. A feared Delta Force medic with years of tactical expertise and combat experience. He returns to protect his family and his community. What follows is a high-stakes battle of strategy, skill, and unyielding resolve. A story of courage rising from the shadows. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories reach. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss tomorrow's special video. I guarantee you won't want to miss it. Now let's jump in. In a quiet suburban town where nothing ever seems to happen, 12-year-old Emma Carter walks home from school alone. The streets are familiar, but they offer no protection. Emma is deaf. Born without the ability to hear, she's learned to navigate the world in silence. Her parents, both working abroad on humanitarian missions, left her under the care of her elderly grandmother. Her life, until recently, was peaceful. But peace never lasts when predators find easy prey. A small gang of local teenage bullies, led by Kyle Mercer, has been targeting Emma for weeks. They laugh at her, push her, steal her backpack, and write cruel notes she can't hear them read aloud. Kyle's father, a mid-level enforcer for a regional criminal syndicate known as the Stone Vultures, gives Kyle a sense of power far beyond his years. And Kyle abuses it. Emma's world grows smaller each day. No one steps in. The teachers look the other way. The neighbors dismiss it as kids being kids. But bullying isn't a harmless game when the victim can't even hear it coming. One day, after another humiliating encounter where Kyle shoved Emma to the ground and scattered her books across the street, she silently gathered her things with trembling hands. Across the road, an old pickup truck rolled to a stop. The driver watched. His name was Logan Carter, ex-Delta Force, former battlefield medic, known in certain classified circles as Doc Reaper, a man whose reputation was built not just on saving lives under fire, but on eliminating threats with surgical precision. He hadn't been back in this town for years. The scars on his body were matched only by the weight in his eyes. He came home to take care of his mother, but what he found was a war brewing right on his family's doorstep. Logan's boots hit the pavement as he crossed to his niece, who clutched her notepad, her primary way of communicating, close to her chest. Her hand signed frantically. "Why are you here? Grandma said you wouldn't come." Logan crouched to her level, signing back with steady hands. "Plans change. I'm home now, and I saw what they did." Emma shook her head, signing quickly. "It's okay. They always do this." His response was ice cold. "Not anymore." Logan's eyes tracked Kyle as the boy walked away with his gang, laughing, unaware that their days of unchecked cruelty were numbered. Later that evening, Logan sat alone on the porch, watching the sunset fade behind the hills. His fingers absent-mindedly traced the scar along his forearm, a souvenir from a mission gone wrong. But here, this wasn't war. Or maybe it was. He pulled out a small tactical notebook, flipping through old scribbled plans, pressure points, chokeholds, rapid subdual techniques. The enemy might be different now, but the method was the same. Observe, plan, neutralize. And he was already 2 steps ahead. The next morning, Logan walked Emma to school. His presence alone disrupted the routine. The bullies kept their distance, but he could feel their eyes watching, calculating. Kyle Mercer wasn't the type to give up. Kids like him, with a taste for power, always regroup. As they reached the school gates, Emma signed quickly. "You don't have to stay. I can handle it." Logan signed back, a faint smirk curling at the edge of his mouth. "It's not about handling it. It's about changing the game." With a reassuring nod, he watched her walk inside before he circled back to his truck. The quiet of the town belied the rot underneath. Logan didn't believe in coincidence. Kyle's aggression wasn't random. It was systematic, enabled by adults who didn't care or were too afraid to intervene. Worse, Kyle's father, Rick Mercer, was connected to the Stone Vultures, a criminal syndicate specializing in extortion, muscle for hire, and territorial dominance. Logan had crossed paths with their operations years ago. They were sloppy, but dangerous when cornered. Logan spent the rest of the day gathering intel. He started with Kyle. He watched from a distance, noting the boys' routines, where he met his crew, what routes they took, where they stashed their stolen goods. Logan was methodical, mapping their movement patterns with precision. By noon, he moved to the next piece, Rick Mercer. A local garage served as Rick's unofficial headquarters. Logan parked across the street under the shade of an old oak tree, sipping bitter coffee while watching the steady stream of lowlifes coming and going. The stone vultures weren't subtle. They made their money by leaning on local businesses, pressuring owners into protection payments, using their sons and nephews as errand boys. Kyle was just another cog in the machine, but his cocky cruelty had drawn the wrong kind of attention. Logan made a note. Targets overconfidence equals exploitable weakness. Back at home, Emma sat beside him at the kitchen table, flipping through her sketchbook. She drew wolves, soldiers, and battlefields, silent wars on paper. She signed, "Why did you really come back?" Logan's hands moved slowly, deliberately. "To protect you." She frowned. "From who?" He paused, then signed. "From people who don't understand what happens when you corner a wolf." That night, Logan prepared. He cleaned his old gear, a combat knife, tactical gloves, a compact radio scanner. No guns. Not yet. He believed in escalation only when necessary. The fight hadn't gone loud. Not yet, but he knew it was coming. He reached out to an old contact, Mason Briggs, a retired EOD specialist who now worked as a mechanic nearby. Briggs had a gift for improvised security, motion sensors, traps, makeshift surveillance. They hadn't talked in years, but when Logan called, Briggs answered without hesitation. "Been a long time, document. You need something defused or detonated." Logan's voice was calm. "Neither. I need to build a net." Quietly, Briggs chuckled. "Thought you retired." Logan's tone sharpened. "I thought so too, until they started messing with my niece." There was silence on the line. Then Briggs simply said, "Where do we start?" The chessboard was set. The pieces were moving. And Kyle Mercer had no idea that the man now watching him wasn't just a protective uncle. He was a predator with a scalpel's precision. Logan wasn't coming to talk. He was coming to dismantle. Logan's strategy was never to overpower. It was to unbalance, to make his opponent bleed before they even realized they'd been cut. And this time would be no different. The following morning, before sunrise, Logan and Briggs met behind the mechanic's shop. The air was crisp, silent except for the occasional creak of metal as Briggs assembled compact trip sensors and wired makeshift audio triggers. "These kids think they're predators," Briggs muttered, tightening a sensor. "But they've never met someone who's hunted real monsters." Logan's response was quiet, clinical. "They won't know they're being hunted until it's too late." Briggs passed him a small earpiece connected to a frequency-jammed local scanner. It would intercept Kyle's walkie-talkie communications with his crew. "Keep it on channel 6, Briggs advised. "That's where these little punks chatter. I've been listening for weeks." Logan nodded. "Good. I'll need live comms when they move." Step 1 was simple. Control the environment. He started by setting silent deterrents. Tripwires linked to silent alarms. Motion-activated strobes in blind alleys where Kyle's gang liked to corner Emma. He wasn't just waiting to react. He was reshaping their battlefield, pushing them where he wanted them. By midday, the traps were live. Briggs monitored them remotely, grinning when the first silent alarm pinged. "They're moving." Logan followed from a distance as Kyle and his boys circled Emma's school, expecting the same easy target. But when they tried to box her in, one of Logan's low-frequency strobes flashed directly in Kyle's eyes, a perfectly timed distraction that scattered the group in confusion. Kyle cursed, shouting at his crew. What the hell was that? Who set that up? No response. No sign of the source. Logan's interference was surgical, enough to unsettle them, but not enough to reveal himself yet. He let them stew, let them start to question their control. The next afternoon, Logan escalated. He intercepted one of Kyle's underlings, Trevor, a lanky teenager with more bravado than brains, while the boy was alone. Logan cornered him in a dead-end alley. He didn't need to touch him. His presence alone was a weapon. "You're going to deliver a message," Logan said, his voice like cold steel. "Tell Kyle that the girl has someone now. Someone who doesn't play by schoolyard rules." Trevor stammered, What message?" Logan stepped closer, his calm eyes locking on Trevor's. "Tell him I'm already inside his game, and I'm not leaving until I dismantle every piece." Trevor bolted, but the message was delivered. By nightfall, Kyle was restless. The streets he'd ruled now seemed claustrophobic, filled with eyes he couldn't see. His friends started pulling back, spooked by the unseen hand that disrupted their routines. Kyle's father, Rick Mercer, wasn't pleased. When Kyle explained the disruption, Rick's dismissive tone betrayed his arrogance. "It's just some washed-up relative. Handle it, or I'll handle you." Kyle's pride overruled his caution. Big mistake. Across town, Logan methodically prepped for the next phase, direct engagement. He wasn't just going to defend Emma. He was going to make sure the Mercers and the Stone Vultures understood one thing. Some men don't bark. Some men don't warn. Some men dismantle you piece by piece until there's nothing left to fight with. And by the time they realize they're in the trap, the walls have already closed. The next move wasn't to attack. It was to let Kyle think he was winning. Logan knew this type. Young, overconfident, desperate to save face. Kyle would try something bigger to reassert his control, and Logan was counting on it. Briggs installed a discreet drone relay to provide overhead visuals of the routes between Emma's school, the park, and the convenience store where the bullies often lingered. The town's narrow streets and predictable choke points were perfect for controlled engagements. Logan plotted every route Emma could take, every intersection, every alleyway with cover. He was tightening the noose without anyone realizing it. That afternoon, as Emma walked home, Logan kept his distance, monitoring the drone feed and the intercepted comms from Kyle's crew. Kyle's voice buzzed through the earpiece. "Positions. She's alone. Cut her off at 3rd Street." Logan's grip tightened on the receiver. He stayed silent. The gang moved fast, expecting the same helpless girl they'd always bullied. But as they turned the corner, their ambush point was blocked. 3 construction dumpsters had been deliberately repositioned to form a bottleneck. "What the?" Kyle barked. Trevor's voice cracked through the radio. "She's moving fast." She changed routes. They tried to adapt, but Logan had already planned Emma's alternate path. He had mapped escape lanes with precision, quietly guiding her via hand signals they'd rehearsed the night before. She turned down a side street, disappeared through a temporary maintenance gate Logan had unlocked hours earlier. By the time the bullies reached the corner, Emma was gone. "Split up," Kyle screamed, but they were chasing shadows. Logan intercepted Kyle's second-in-command, Bryce, the only one bold enough to pursue Emma solo. Logan moved silently, cutting through back alleys until he was 2 steps ahead. Bryce never saw him coming. Logan appeared from the side, his hand closing around Bryce's wrist in a rapid lock, twisting until Bryce was on his knees. "Where's the fun now?" Logan asked calmly. Bryce gasped in pain, too shocked to respond. "You'll deliver another message," Logan whispered, tightening the pressure point until Bryce's legs trembled. "Tell Kyle he's predictable. Tell him the streets aren't his anymore." Bryce whimpered. Who are you?" Logan leaned closer, his voice like a scalpel. "I'm the consequence you didn't calculate." He released Bryce, who bolted without looking back. Back at home, Emma signed rapidly, her excitement palpable. "They couldn't catch me. I followed your signals. It worked." Logan signed back with a rare glimmer of pride. "Good. You did perfect. We'll practice again tomorrow. They'll adapt, so we will too." That night, the Mercers convened. Rick was growing impatient. "You can't control a street if you can't control a little girl." Rick sneered at his son. "Handle it. Fast, or I'll send men who will." Kyle, bruised and humiliated, promised to fix it. He didn't realize the problem wasn't the girl. It was the man shaping the battlefield around her. Logan wasn't simply reacting. He was guiding them into increasingly desperate plays, cutting off resources, manipulating routes, planting psychological seeds of fear. He was teaching them to second-guess every step. Soon, they would learn that every move they made had already been anticipated. And when they escalated, as they surely would, Logan would be waiting, with precision, with strategy, and with a quiet, surgical wrath. Kyle Mercer was restless. The whispers had started, first among his friends, then around the school. Stories about a ghost watching the streets, a shadow that outmaneuvered them at every turn. Some even said the man was ex-military. Kyle dismissed the rumors at first, but the cracks were forming. His crew was slipping away, one by one, spooked by the invisible hand guiding Emma to safety and delivering calculated warnings. Desperate to salvage his reputation, Kyle made a reckless choice. He decided to escalate. He wouldn't just chase Emma anymore, he'd corner her. Publicly. Force her into a confrontation. Make a statement that would send a message to anyone else who thought they could step into his world. Logan had predicted this. It was a classic overextension. When young aggressors feel power slipping, they make loud, risky moves to reassert dominance. And that's when they're most vulnerable. Briggs intercepted the chatter on the scanner. Big play tomorrow, Briggs relayed. Kyle's pulling in muscle. Out-of-towners. Not his usual schoolyard punks. He's going to try to pin Emma somewhere she can't run. Logan's mind shifted instantly to contingency planning. He scouted likely ambush locations. The playground, the overpass, the empty warehouse district near the rail yard. He narrowed it down to the rail yard. Isolated. Limited exits. Perfect for a trap. Exactly the kind of place Kyle would pick to display his control. Logan spent the night rigging the area. He set high-frequency sound emitters Kyle's crew wouldn't hear coming until it was too late. He placed dust canisters in strategic corners, simple improvised distractions that would cloud the air when triggered. Every path Emma might take was laced with escape options and fallback routes. The next morning, Emma signed to him. "Are you sure about this? You want me to go there?" Logan's hands moved with steady reassurance. "I'll be with you the whole time. They need to think they have you cornered. Let them overcommit. Trust me." She hesitated, then signed back with growing confidence. "I trust you." Kyle's crew set the ambush exactly as Logan expected. Emma walked into the rail yard, her steps calm, deliberate, her eyes sharp with rehearsed readiness. Kyle's men emerged from shipping containers, grinning, blocking her paths. "End of the line, deaf girl," Kyle sneered, stepping into view. "No one's here to save you now." But Kyle's tactical mistake was monumental. He had surrounded Emma, but only in ways Logan had allowed. Hidden speakers activated, flooding the area with high-pitched pulses that scrambled Kyle's radios. The gang's backup lost communication instantly. Emma pivoted, signaling with subtle hand movements. Logan, watching from the adjacent building through a scope, triggered the dust canisters. Plumes of thick, choking dust burst around the gang, disorienting them. Emma sprinted, cutting through the exact lanes Logan had planned. Kyle coughed, barking orders that no one could hear over the screeching frequencies and the chaos of the dust clouds. Logan dropped into the yard like a ghost. His approach was surgical. He disabled one of Kyle's heavies with a rapid arm lock and a precision knee strike, dragging him silently out of sight. Another turned to pursue Emma, but Logan swept his legs from beneath him, driving him into the gravel with a controlled joint lock that snapped the fight out of him instantly. Kyle finally realized he was losing his crew, one by one, without even seeing the man dismantling them. In a panic, he bolted toward Emma's escape route. But Logan was already there. He stepped out, calm, unarmed, as Kyle skidded to a stop. "You," Kyle seethed, piecing it all together. "You've been doing this. You think you're some hero." Logan's voice was ice. "No, I'm just the correction to your miscalculation." Kyle charged. Logan sidestepped with precision, catching Kyle's arm mid-swing and redirecting his momentum into the gravel. Kyle gasped, struggling, but Logan pinned him effortlessly. "You're done here," Logan said, tightening the hold. "And your father? He'll know what happens when his shadow games spill into my family's life." Kyle spit blood onto the ground. "You think he's afraid of you?" Logan leaned in, whispering like a blade. "He should be." Logan released him, stepping back as Emma reappeared behind him, safe, unharmed, and stronger than she had been days before. Together, they walked away, leaving Kyle bruised, humiliated, and terrified. But Logan knew this wasn't the end. Kyle's father would come next, and that battle would require even sharper tactics. The game was far from over. Kyle Mercer returned home battered, humiliated, and boiling with rage. His father, Rick Mercer, sat across from him in their lavish, wood-paneled office, a space bought with blood money and backroom deals. The Stone Vultures didn't tolerate weakness, and Rick wasn't about to let his son's failure stain their name. "You got outplayed by a washed-up medic?" Rick's voice dripped with venom. Kyle clenched his fists. "He's not just a medic, Dad. He's something else. He was waiting for us. He knew our moves before we made them." Rick slammed his whiskey glass down, the ice rattling with finality. "I don't care if he's God's personal bodyguard. You failed. Now I have to clean up your mess." He made a call. Within hours, professional muscle arrived in town. Stone Vultures enforcers, real ones. Men with criminal resumes, not teenagers playing gangsters. They weren't here to scare school kids. They were here to neutralize problems. Logan expected this escalation. He monitored the new arrivals, hardened syndicate operatives with cold eyes and disciplined movements. These weren't local thugs. These men had seen real fights. Briggs scouted their convoy entering town. Bad news, document. These boys move like they know what they're doing. Logan was already charting countermeasures. Good. I'm tired of babysitting amateurs. His first move was to gather intel. He followed one of the Vulture's tacticians, Vince Cordova, to a rundown motel on the outskirts of town. Logan didn't approach. He simply listened, intercepted comms, and built a profile. Cordova was sharp, cautious, and came with a reputation for rooting out tactical defenses. Unlike Kyle, this man wouldn't fall for simple misdirection. Logan adjusted his playbook. He couldn't rely on the same environmental traps. They would sweep for those now. Instead, he shifted to psychological disruption. He began to pick apart their supply lines. Quietly, the Vulture's vehicles were sabotaged in the night. Brake lines severed, fuel siphoned, communication hubs jammed. Logan planted seeds of paranoia, stolen maps, missing equipment, perfectly timed accidents that eroded their confidence. Cordova realized quickly, this wasn't just local resistance. Someone with military-level experience was dismantling them. The syndicate doubled down. They posted sentries at Emma's school. They followed Logan, attempting to track his patterns. But Logan never gave them a fixed routine. He varied his routes, used decoys, and employed local safe houses Briggs helped prepare. Meanwhile, Emma continued her training. Every evening, Logan walked her through escape drills, situational awareness, and basic self-defense adapted to her capabilities. She signed to him one night, "They're not just boys anymore." Logan signed back, "Good. I don't like wasting time on boys." Emma smirked, a rare, fleeting moment of humor that reminded him why he fought. But the noose was tightening. One night, as Logan left a safe house, Cordova's men cornered him in an alley. 3 enforcers, armed and ready. Cordova's voice echoed from behind them. "You're good, Carter, but you're just one man." Logan assessed the spacing, the cover, their formation. "You're right," Logan said calmly. "But one man is enough to fracture an empire if he cuts the right beams." Cordova admired the bravado. "The Vultures are bigger than this town. You can't protect the girl forever." Logan's expression hardened. "I don't need to protect her forever. Just long enough to gut your operation and make you pull out." Cordova gestured. "Take him." The fight erupted fast. Logan slipped into the closest enforcer's guard, delivering a vicious elbow strike to the jaw, immediately following with a disabling arm trap that snapped the man's shoulder out of socket. He pivoted, using the downed enforcer as a human shield as the second man lunged. Logan's boot connected with the second man's knee, driving him to the ground with surgical precision. The third enforcer hesitated just long enough for Logan to close the gap, delivering a palm strike to the throat, collapsing the man's airway. Logan's breathing remained steady. Cordova didn't intervene. He simply smiled, watching his men writhe in the dirt. "You're a problem," Cordova said, turning away. "But even the best men get tired. I'll keep the pressure on. Let's see how long you last." Logan watched him disappear into the night, already calculating his next move. Cordova wouldn't stop, but neither would he. The battlefield had changed. Now, the real war had begun. Cordova's strategy was simple, constant pressure. The Stone Vultures increased their surveillance, tightened their routes, and set rotating teams near Emma's school and Logan's known haunts. Every corner Logan turned, someone was watching. Every route Emma took was shadowed. They wanted him to break routine, to make mistakes. But Logan didn't have a routine. That was his routine. He shifted Emma's escorts daily. Sometimes he walked her. Sometimes Briggs trailed nearby. Occasionally, Logan sent a local contact, Mrs. Alvarez, a retired postal worker with sharp eyes and a concealed taser. Emma's security was a rotating defense net, unpredictable and fluid. Cordova's frustration grew. The syndicate's problem wasn't just Logan's skills, it was his adaptability. He wasn't fighting like a soldier. He was fighting like a tactician who expected to be outnumbered. Briggs grunted over comms one afternoon. "They're getting sloppy. Cordova's got him stretched too thin." Logan replied calmly. "They're not sloppy. They're desperate. Keep tracking. I need to know when they deviate." The deviation came sooner than expected. Logan intercepted a transmission. Cordova was planning a hard strike. targeting Emma directly at her grandmother's house. No more subtlety. No more cat and mouse. They were going to storm the home. But that's exactly what Logan wanted. He and Briggs prepped the house in less than 6 hours. Reinforced entry points. Motion-triggered flashbang decoys. Furniture repositioned to create funnel points. Bottleneck zones were laced with trip hazards and makeshift barriers. Every inch of the house was now a tactical trap. Emma's grandmother was quietly relocated to a neighbor's house under the guise of a friendly sleepover. By midnight, they came. 3 black SUVs screeched to a stop outside the house. Cordova's men breached the front door with crowbars and short-barreled shotguns, expecting a quick extraction. Instead, they triggered Logan's first defense layer. A sudden flashbang ignited in the narrow entryway, disorienting the lead man, sending him sprawling over a chair Logan had bolted to the floor. The second operative tripped on a low-placed steel wire, slamming into the wall. Logan struck from the shadows. He disabled the first intruder with a swift chokehold, pressing his carotid just long enough to drop him unconscious without a sound. Briggs, stationed at the rear, cut off their retreat by blocking the back exit with his truck. The remaining 2 enforcers regrouped inside the living room, but the furniture was arranged to corral them into a tight kill zone. Logan entered the room with controlled steps. Calm, unarmed. The enforcers leveled their weapons. Logan didn't flinch. "You can shoot," he said coolly, "but you're standing directly in front of a mirrored panel. My partner's laser sight has been on your head for 10 seconds. It was a bluff, but it didn't need to be true." The enforcers hesitated just long enough. Logan surged forward, disarming the first man with a wristlock disarm and pivoting to deliver a crushing knee strike to the second's abdomen. Seconds later, both were on the ground. Cordova's plan had failed. Again, Logan left one conscious, whispering coldly into his ear, "Tell Cordova, he's playing chess. I'm playing demolition." By dawn, Cordova was livid. 2 failed operations. For incapacitated men. No traceable patterns. No usable leverage. Logan Carter was systematically dismantling the Stone Vulture's presence in the town, and Cordova was running out of options. Worse, fear was spreading inside his own ranks. Briggs intercepted more comms chatter. "They're pulling back," he reported, scrolling through intercepted voice logs. "Some of the out-of-town muscles bailing early. They don't want to keep playing this game." Logan's response was steady. "Good. Break their cohesion. Fear is more corrosive than fire." Cordova wasn't about to walk away. He made one final call to Merrick Salvo, an independent contractor. Ex-private military. Cold. Efficient. Merrick had no syndicate loyalty. He worked for results. Cordova's instructions were clear. "I don't need another bruiser. I need someone who understands how to break a tactician." Merrick was perfect for the job. Logan knew the name the moment Briggs flagged his arrival. Salvo was notorious in certain circles, a ghost hunter specializing in eliminating problem operators like Logan. Unlike Cordova's hired guns, Merrick would study, adapt, and counter. The game had shifted again. This wouldn't be a contest of muscle. It would be tactician versus tactician. That same afternoon, Logan spotted Merrick trailing him. Deliberate, visible, not even bothering to hide. A message. Logan didn't change course. Instead, he sat at his usual coffee shop, knowing Merrick would follow. He left a folded note on the table when he exited. Merrick collected it. "You're not the first. You won't be the last. Let's see if you can finish the puzzle." Merrick smiled faintly. The challenge was accepted. The next 48 hours became a brutal chess match. Merrick studied Logan's safe houses, intentionally triggered old motion sensors to force Logan to burn fallback routes. He severed supply caches. Logan responded by feeding Merrick false intel, leading him into decoy traps that wasted precious time. Both men anticipated the other's next 3 moves. Merrick finally forced a confrontation by abducting one of Logan's local contacts, a grocery store owner who had provided logistical support. It wasn't random. It was Marek's message. "I can get to your support." Briggs was rattled. "You want to move him? Set up a hit on Merrick." Logan shook his head. "No. If we move now, we play into his timeline. He's baiting us. We let him think we're hesitating." Briggs frowned. "So what? We just leave the guy in their hands." Logan's voice was cold. "No. We set up something he won't expect." Logan's plan was layered. He arranged a fake meet, public, traceable, where Merrick would expect Logan to show up under pressure. But instead, Logan used Briggs to execute a synchronized, multi-point interference maneuver. While Marek's eyes were on the meat, Logan breached the safe house where the hostage was held, disabling Marek's perimeter guards with silent takedowns and extracting the hostage with precise timing. Marek returned to the safe house minutes later, finding only an empty chair and a folded note. "You're not the one dismantling me. You're part of what's already broken." For the first time, Marek hesitated. Logan wasn't playing to win battles. He was playing to crush the opponent's belief that victory was possible. And Marek just realized he wasn't chasing Logan. He was following exactly where Logan wanted him to go. Marek's salvo wasn't a man easily rattled. But Logan Carter had done something few opponents ever managed. He'd forced Marek off his timeline. Logan's extraction wasn't just a tactical victory. It was a message. "You're not dictating the pace. I am." Back at his temporary command post, Marek replayed every step, every feed, every intercepted signal. His men were competent, but Logan's precision had left them a step behind at every turn. Cordova wasn't impressed. "You've had your chance, Salvo. I hired you to break him." Marek's voice was flat, clinical. "Your problem isn't Carter. It's you. You underestimate him. You kept sending amateurs." Cordova sneered. "And what's your excuse now?" Marek stood, calm but deadly. "You sent me to dismantle a tactician. Turns out he's not just a tactician. He's a warfighter." Cordova leaned in, his patience thinned to nothing. "Then escalate. Hard. No more games." Marek's next move was brutal. He set a multi-layered assault, a simultaneous, three-pronged pressure campaign, a surveillance tail on Emma's school, an assault team shadowing Logan's known supply routes, a coordinated attack on Briggs' mechanic shop. He forced Logan to choose where to respond. But Logan didn't choose. He split his own assets. Briggs defended his shop with improvised explosive deterrents, a web of chain smoke bombs, tripwire-triggered alarms, and a cleverly placed collapsing scaffold that cut off the assault team's advance. He bought time, disabling one of the enforcers with a wrench to the collarbone. Meanwhile, Logan sent Mrs. Alvarez to quietly extract Emma through a lesser-known maintenance gate at the school. Logan had anticipated Marek's routes and sent decoys to trigger their tails, leading them in the wrong direction. Logan himself intercepted the team stalking his supply routes. The ambush was precise. He disabled the driver of the trailing vehicle using a spike strip he'd buried under loose gravel days earlier. As the vehicle skidded out, Logan exploited the panic, using smoke grenades to blind the enforcers. He subdued two operatives with rapid joint locks and close-quarters disarms, all while remaining calm and methodical. Logan's ability to execute multiple operations simultaneously wasn't just skill, it was orchestration. He moved his pieces across the board without losing sight of the bigger game. When the dust settled, Marek realized the painful truth. Logan had anticipated all three attacks and countered each without sacrificing any assets. Marek's frustration surfaced in a clenched fist against the table. Logan left another note behind at one of the intercepted sites. "Stop forcing decisions. I've already made mine." Marek finally understood. He wasn't pressuring Logan into mistakes. He was playing into Logan's timeline. Briggs patched through a quiet radio message. "You think he's done? Or you think he's getting reckless?" Logan's answer was cold and certain. "No, he's getting precise." Marek wouldn't make the same mistake twice. But neither would Logan. The next phase wouldn't be cat and mouse. It would be predator versus predator, each with their teeth bared. The next encounter wasn't going to be about running. Logan knew that. Marek knew that too. They'd danced enough. It was time to meet head-on. Marek adjusted his strategy. No more overextending. No more multi-point distractions. He recalibrated his team, trimming the dead weight and focusing on a precision strike team. For operatives, all ex-military, disciplined, and capable of rapid adaptation. No loose ends. No reliance on Cordova's clumsy enforcers. Logan welcomed the shift. He preferred a clean fight. Marek sent his message. "No more games. Just us." Logan's reply was simple. A time. A place. An abandoned grain warehouse on the town's edge. Briggs raised an eyebrow when Logan told him. "You sure about this? No support? Just you." Logan calmly checked his knife's edge. "That's the point. If Marek's coming, I want him close. I want him committed." Emma, watching silently from the doorway, signed. "You don't have to do this alone." Logan's reply was steady. "I'm not. You're here. Briggs is here. I'm just stepping forward to close the circle. That night, the warehouse stood silent, surrounded by open gravel yards. No blind spots, no easy cover. It was the perfect place to settle this. Merrick arrived with his four-man strike team. He entered with calm precision, sweeping the corners, checking the rafters. No traps, no diversions. Just Logan, waiting. Merrick spoke first. "You really came alone." Logan's voice was measured. "That's what you wanted." One of Marek's men stepped forward, weapon ready. Logan raised a hand. "You can pull that trigger. But the moment you do, my friend across the hill detonates the truck parked next to your fallback vehicle." It wasn't a bluff this time. Briggs had eyes on the secondary exfil route with the dead man's switch in hand. Marek's eyes narrowed. "You're willing to kill us all?" Logan's stare was ice. "Only if you leave me no choice." Merrick signaled for his man to lower the weapon. A standoff. Tactical. Silent. Merrick circled. "You've been 3 steps ahead. But why keep the girl in this town? Why not just vanish with her?" Logan's answer was surgical. "Because this isn't just about survival. It's about drawing the right wolves into the open." Merrick paused, the weight of the words sinking in. "You wanted this escalation." Logan's smirk was faint, razor sharp. "I didn't just want it. I built it. I let Cordova think he was forcing me. I let you think you were cornering me." The realization hit. Merrick hadn't been steering the fight. Logan had shaped the entire battlefield to pull Merrick into this warehouse at this exact moment. And outside, Stone Vulture's reinforcements were being quietly intercepted by local deputies and former military friends Logan had quietly contacted days prior. Trusted men, briefed, prepared. Marek's comms crackled with distant gunfire. Briggs' voice patched in on the open channel. "Surprise. You're out of backup." Marek's jaw tightened. He signaled his men to fall back. Logan didn't stop him. But as Merrick backed toward the exit, Logan delivered one final, cutting line. "Tell Cordova his empire fits in a box. And I'm almost done building it." Merrick left, but he left knowing one thing. He had been outplayed. Completely. The predator had walked into the cage, and Logan never had to close the door. Marek's retreat wasn't just a tactical withdrawal. It was the beginning of a collapse. The Stone Vulture's hold on the town, once tight and suffocating, began to unravel rapidly. Cordova's men were shaken to their core. The failure at the warehouse, combined with Logan's relentless counterattacks, had eroded their confidence. Some dropped their weapons and surrendered to local law enforcement. Others fled into the shadows, leaving behind their ambitions and bruised pride. Kyle Mercer, the young bully whose recklessness had sparked this entire conflict, found himself sidelined and disowned by the syndicate. His once boastful crew dissolved into fragments, scared, directionless, and haunted by their defeats. Logan Carter, however, remained steady and watchful. The man who had returned to protect his niece was now something far more, a guardian of a community that had long lived in fear. At home, the atmosphere shifted subtly but powerfully. Neighbors who had once turned blind eyes or whispered dismissively now regarded Logan and Emma with newfound respect. Some approached with offers of quiet support, extra eyes on the streets, whispered tips, a nod of solidarity. The town was waking up, slowly but unmistakably. One evening, sitting on the porch beneath a darkening sky, Logan signed to Emma. "This fight changes nothing if the town forgets. We have to keep the eyes open." Emma's hands moved firmly, filled with conviction. "We make sure they stay awake." That night, Logan began the work that was as critical as any fight, building community resilience. He reached out discreetly to old military contacts, veterans who had long since retired to quiet lives, but who shared a commitment to protecting their own. He spoke to local leaders, business owners, teachers, and those who cared enough to resist the rot creeping through their town. Together, they started forming a quiet network, people who would watch, listen, and act if the shadows tried to reclaim their streets. It was a defensive web, an unseen shield woven from vigilance and courage. At a low-key gathering in a small diner, Logan laid out his plan to his trusted allies. "We hold the line," he said, his voice steady and serious. "We don't just wait for trouble to come to us. We anticipate it. We prevent it." Briggs, who had become Logan's steadfast partner in this fight, grinned and added, "And if anyone tries to move in again, they'll find the wolves already waiting." The message was unmistakable. For the criminal syndicate, for any would-be aggressors, for anyone who believed the town was easy prey. This community had a guardian now, a man who knew the cost of silence, a man who understood the price of complacency, a man who didn't just protect, he dismantled. Then, a silent but chilling warning arrived on Logan's encrypted phone. No sender, no signature, just a simple message. This isn't over. Logan smiled softly, eyes hardening with resolve. He was ready. Ready for Emma. Ready for the town. Ready for whatever fight was still to come. Because sometimes, the fiercest battles aren't fought on distant battlefields or faraway fronts. Sometimes, they're fought right at home, where stakes are personal and the cost is everything. And when a wolf fights for family, he leaves no room for mercy. The streets of the town had settled into a deceptive calm. The stone vultures had pulled back, their presence diminished but far from erased. Logan knew better than to believe in the permanence of silence. In this world, quiet was often just the calm before another storm. Logan's quiet network, which had begun as a few trusted faces, was growing into something far more substantial. Former soldiers and local veterans, business owners with deep roots, school staff who cared about their students, and neighbors once indifferent now became a web of watchers. They shared information, reported suspicious activity, and looked out for one another. Areas that had once been easy prey for gangs and syndicates now had eyes in every window and ears on every phone line. Briggs took charge of logistics with the precision of a seasoned operator. He secured safe routes for Emma's school commute, maintained covert communication lines, and ensured their lines of supply and support remained unbroken. Behind the scenes, he was the backbone, making sure every move Logan and Emma made was supported and protected. Meanwhile, Logan devoted hours daily to Emma's training. It wasn't just physical anymore, it was tactical. He taught her how to think ahead, how to notice the subtle signals of danger, and how to make quick, effective decisions when seconds counted. Emma absorbed it all with a fierce determination. She wasn't the frightened girl from weeks ago. She was becoming a young warrior, cautious, confident, and fiercely capable. One evening, as the sky faded into shades of twilight, Logan's secure phone buzzed with an encrypted message from an old ally. The message was a warning. Syndicate movements were stirring in neighboring regions, linked to Rick Mercer's attempts to rebuild his power base. Logan read the message twice, then looked out over the quiet town he had fought so hard to protect. The fight wasn't confined to these streets anymore. It was expanding, evolving into a larger, more complex conflict that stretched across state lines. He shared the news with Emma and Briggs. They understood what it meant. Vigilance was not a burden. It was a necessity, a constant state of readiness. The community had awakened. The wolves had been warned. And Logan Carter? He was ready to stand guard in the shadows for as long as it took. Because protecting family and a town was not a mission with an endpoint. It was a lifelong watch. Months slipped by under the watchful eyes of Logan's growing network. The town's pulse steadied on the surface, but beneath the calm, subtle currents were stirring, whispers and ripples of danger that Logan refused to ignore. Rick Mercer was not defeated. He was regrouping, reassembling his fractured empire in shadowed corners beyond the town's reach. His influence stretched farther than anyone had anticipated. Logan began picking up the signs early, fragmented chatter intercepted over encrypted lines, tips from trusted contacts who watched suspicious activity in neighboring towns. Mercer's operatives were on the move again, embedding themselves like silent predators. They tested new territories, probing defenses, expanding their reach quietly but methodically. The calm the town had enjoyed was only the eye of the storm. Emma, having transformed over the months, since the shift too, her training evolved far beyond escape routes and self-defense. Logan pushed her into deeper tactical understanding, reading a threat before it manifested, recognizing the subtle body language of aggression, communicating silently with her uncle and allies, mastering patience as a weapon. She was no longer just a survivor. She was becoming a strategist in her own right. One evening, Logan gathered Briggs and the core allies they had quietly built, a small circle of trusted veterans, community leaders, and local law enforcement officers who understood the stakes. The air in the room was heavy with resolve. "This isn't just about protecting Emma or our town anymore," Logan said, voice low but firm. "Rick Mercer is regrouping. The fight is expanding beyond our streets." Briggs, methodical as ever, checked his gear before replying. Then we adapt. Expand our network. Tighten our intel flow. We strike first, strike hard, and make sure they never get a foothold. Logan nodded in agreement. We take the initiative. If they want war, we'll show them what real resistance looks like. The community had grown stronger. Veterans mentoring locals, watch shifts rotating in neighborhoods, informal training sessions teaching situational awareness and basic defense. Local law enforcement, once hesitant, now cooperated quietly, sharing intelligence and providing backup. The wolves were circling, but the pack was ready. Later that night, Logan signed quietly to Emma, eyes open, mind sharp. We stand ready. She smiled back, a fierce, confident spark lighting her eyes. The war for their town was far from over. But for now, they stood unbroken, vigilant in the shadows, prepared for whatever battles the future held. The weeks that followed felt almost peaceful, a deceptive lull that Logan knew all too well. Every seasoned operator understands that silence in a battlefield is rarely a sign of safety, but rather a pause before chaos erupts. The town, wrapped in the protective web Logan and his allies had woven, breathed easier. Children played in streets that once echoed with fear. Emma went to school without the weight of constant danger pressing on her shoulders. But Logan's eyes never relaxed. His mind scanned every horizon for signs of the next move. Local law enforcement, now aligned quietly with Logan's network, increased patrols around known syndicate hotspots. Small businesses, long intimidated into silence, started speaking out, reporting suspicious activities, cooperating in subtle ways. The town's spirit was rekindling. But somewhere in the shadows, Rick Mercer was plotting. Logan spent nights poring over intelligence reports, coordinating with Briggs and trusted contacts. They analyzed patterns, intercepted messages, and prepared contingencies. He trained Emma relentlessly, pushing her limits, refining her tactical instincts, and teaching her that true strength comes not only from muscle but from patience, awareness, and unyielding resolve. One evening, as dusk settled, Logan met with Briggs in a quiet diner. "We've bought time," Briggs said, "but we both know it won't last." Logan nodded. "We've hardened the town's heart, but when Mercer moves, it'll be with everything he's got." Their conversation was interrupted by a discreet buzz on Logan's secure line, a coded alert signaling movement from Mercer's faction. Logan's gaze hardened. "The storm's coming. We'll be ready." That night, the community shifted from watchful to vigilant, each member understanding that the fight for their home was about to escalate. And Logan? He stood at the forefront, calm, prepared, and ready to face whatever darkness was headed their way. The tension Logan had felt was about to snap. Before dawn, word came in from local contacts. The stone vultures had moved. They struck first at a small supply cache on the outskirts of town, a vital node for Logan's network. The attack was swift and brutal. Briggs was already en route with backup when Logan arrived. The site was a smoldering mess, crates destroyed, communications equipment smashed, and signs of a hasty retreat. But the attackers had left something behind, a mocking message scrawled in spray paint on a broken crate. "This is just the beginning." Logan crouched beside the debris, assessing the damage. The message was clear. Rick Mercer wanted the town to know the fight was far from over, and that he intended to escalate. Briggs lit a cigarette and shook his head. "They want to provoke us." Logan's voice was steady. "Then we give them a war they won't forget." Back at their command center, Logan and Briggs gathered their core team. Intelligence had pinpointed potential syndicate strongholds nearby. It was time to hit back, hard and fast. Logan's plan was surgical, a coordinated strike against multiple targets to disrupt Mercer's rebuilding efforts. They'd hit supply lines, safe houses, and key personnel, hitting the enemy where it hurt most. Emma listened intently, her eyes sharp despite the gravity of the situation. Logan knew she understood the stakes. This wasn't just a battle for survival, but for the soul of their community. As night fell, the team moved into position. The tension was electric, every movement calculated and precise. The first blow landed with devastating impact. Communication hubs were seized, weapons caches destroyed, and Mercer's men scattered like rats under fire. The message was clear. Logan Carter was not a man to be trifled with. But as the smoke cleared, Logan's mind raced. This was only the opening salvo. Mercer would retaliate, and the fight was far from over. The dawn after the strike brought uneasy quiet. The stone vultures were bruised, but far from broken. Logan's attack had inflicted damage, but it also ignited a fierce fire of vengeance within Mercer's faction. Within hours, coordinated counterattacks rippled through the town. Supply lines were targeted again, this time with more brutality and unpredictability. Local businesses aligned with Logan's network faced intimidation tactics and vandalism. The syndicate wanted to remind the town that they still held power, no matter how tightly Logan gripped the reins. Briggs radioed in reports of skirmishes across multiple neighborhoods, small teams moving fast, trying to disrupt communication and spread fear. But the town's watchful eyes were ready. Logan coordinated rapid response teams, using layered defense points and swift reinforcements. Every call was met with a calculated counter, minimizing damage and keeping the wolves at bay. Despite the escalation, Logan remained calm. He knew Mercer's fury was a sign that his strategy was working. Each failed attack weakened the syndicate's grip. Emma's training paid off during a late evening patrol when a small group of syndicate enforcers attempted to ambush her escort. Using techniques Logan had drilled into her, Emma spotted the threat early and signaled silently. The team neutralized the attackers without casualties. That night, Logan gathered the core team. "This fight is far from over," he said, voice steady. "But every attack they launch fractures their hold. We hold, we adapt, and we push back." Briggs cracked a rare smile. "They're losing their edge." Logan nodded. "Good, because when they lose control, they get desperate, and that's when we end this." The town was scarred but standing, stronger, united, and ready to face the battles yet to come. The escalating skirmishes had one inevitable consequence. Rick Mercer grew reckless. The slow dismantling of his syndicate's operations ignited desperation, pushing him toward bold, dangerous moves. Logan anticipated this. He knew desperation made enemies predictable. He prepared accordingly. Intelligence flagged a high-value target. Mercer's lieutenant, a brutal enforcer named Cortez, was scheduled to meet with external arms dealers in a secluded warehouse miles from town. The meeting was key to Mercer's plan for rearmament. Logan saw an opportunity, a chance to sever Mercer's supply line and deliver a decisive blow. Briggs assembled a team of specialists, close-quarters combatants, sharpshooters, and communications experts. Each member was briefed thoroughly. Failure wasn't an option. As night fell, they infiltrated the warehouse's perimeter silently, using terrain and shadows to their advantage. Logan coordinated from a nearby overwatch position, maintaining communications and overseeing timing. The assault was swift and precise. Silent takedowns eliminated sentries before the alarm could raise. Sharpshooters covered every approach. The team breached the meeting room just as Cortez arrived, capturing or neutralizing all involved. Logan's team secured weapons caches and intelligence documents, crippling Mercer's next phase. But the strike came at a cost. Briggs sustained a deep wound during extraction, a reminder of the battle's stakes. Back at the safe house, Logan applied field treatment with practiced hands, the calm medic beneath the warrior's exterior shining through. "This is it," Logan said quietly. "We're close to breaking their spine." Emma, watching, signed firmly. "We stand with you." The final gambit had begun. Mercer's syndicate was bleeding, and the wolf was ready to close in. The strike against Cortez marked a pivotal moment. Mercer's syndicate was fractured, disoriented, and bleeding from every direction. But Logan knew the endgame was never simple. Mercer's desperation had pushed him to darker depths, alliances with more dangerous players, unpredictable tactics, and reckless violence. The final confrontation wasn't just physical. It was a psychological battle for control over the town's future. Logan and his team fortified their positions. They coordinated with local law enforcement, community leaders, and trusted allies, establishing a unified front against the remaining threats. The town's residents, once isolated and fearful, became active participants in their own defense. Emma, growing stronger each day, became a symbol of resilience, her courage inspiring others to stand firm. Logan continued to train and prepare her, knowing the fight would shape the years to come. The decisive battle came in a stormy night. Mercer launched a last-ditch assault on a town center. Logan's team met them head-on with layered defenses, tactical precision, and unyielding resolve. Every move was calculated. Every decision weighed with the knowledge of what was at stake. After hours of fierce combat, Mercer's forces were broken. The syndicate's grip shattered, the wolves scattered. The town was free, but the price had been high. As dawn broke, Logan stood overlooking the town, wounded but unbowed. His message was clear to anyone who would threaten peace again. This community would stand, united and vigilant, against all who sought to exploit it. The fight for justice was never over, but with allies, preparation, and resolve, Logan and his family had forged a new legacy, a beacon in the shadows, ready to defend what mattered most.